Hi everybody and welcome back to the Feenstra Zoo. My name is Spencer and today we are here with my lovely wife Shalane.
Hello.
So today is going to be just a back and forth conversation between us. Nothing too crazy, you've heard it before, but today we get to talk about a spicy topic. Today we're talking about sex and all of the good, the bad, the ugly, the things no one wants to talk about and hear about. But I think it's important, especially because this podcast is about healthy relationship, and a healthy marriage, well, it has sex. So before we jump into all the fun that's going to be, I just want to remind you to go check out BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/The Feenstra Zoo. You get a discount off your first bit of therapy as well. You can find all sorts of great ways to help and improve your life, but there will be a proper ad on this later. Right now, we're going to jump right into our first topic. So I thought we would start at the beginning. Okay, God designed sex. He made it for our enjoyment. He made it before the fall of man, so it's always been part of his plan for a good, healthy marriage. All of this to say, there is a healthy expression of sexuality within a relationship. Now, we all hear horror stories about ways that this is twisted and abused and all of the gross that can come along with this. But there is a proper and healthy way to express your sexuality within a loving relationship. Now, babe, where do you think is the best place to start?
Just like with anything, communication.
That's exactly where I was going. Now, how would you start this conversation? At what point would you start this conversation?
Before marriage. And that's not, okay, so that's not saying that you should be having all of this, crossing lines talk before marriage. But you're engaged, you're on your way to, you're going through marriage counseling. I think it should be part of marriage counseling.
100%.
It was barely talked about in our marriage counseling. We had very light and fluffy marriage counseling. Which I don't recommend, but for us it was okay. But it should be something that is talked about, in my opinion, in a safe environment of not crossing lines physically. Just there's that gray window peak, right? That's where when you should talk about it.
Yeah, I think you touched on something really important there, is that you're not crossing any physical lines. So when you're talking about this, you shouldn't be cozied up, laying in a bed after a movie or something, talking about sex before you're married. It's going to set yourself up for temptation and failure.
Exactly.
Not failure, but mistakes can happen in said situations.
Right, and it doesn't have to be there. This could be take-home homework from your marriage counseling or whatever. But essentially, it should be a semi-comfortable conversation where you're able to talk about yourself and your partner. And I don't necessarily want to say setting expectations, because
no,
that's not how that should start. But just, you need to communicate about it. It needs to be a conversation to have had before your wedding night.
And I think it needs to continue.
Yes. That's where it starts, and then it should continue forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Because speaking from personal experience, my wants and needs and desires have changed over the past near decade.
Of course.
Just like anything. It needs to be a continued conversation.
But you could say something about, you could literally say that about anything.
True.
If you were to do the exact same questionnaire or topic conversations that you were given in marital counseling 10 years later,
I would love to compare and contrast that kind of thing.
Chances are your answers would be completely different.
Yeah. Please allow me to interrupt here momentarily. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy service, 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just have to answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then, you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for you for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you can get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you. More scheduling, more flexibility, and at more affordable price. And right now, you can get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp by visiting betterhelp.com/thefiendstrezoo. That's betterhelp.com/thefiendstrezoo. And guys, I really just want to encourage you to try therapy if you never have before, because I can speak from personal experience that finding someone you can talk open and freely with no judgment coming back at you, someone who literally is there just to help you sort out whatever it is that's weighing on you. It's an incalculable value to yourself. It's literally saved my life. So please do yourself a favor and give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. So please visit betterhelp.com/thefiendstrezoo. That's betterhelp.com/thefiendstrezoo, and you can receive 10% off your first month of therapy. Now, getting beyond the conversation of, not expectations, but that initial sexual conversation, there's more healthy expression physically after the I do's. Now, there's a point I want to touch on. I can bring it up now anyway. It is possible and quite easy to be caught being lustful towards your spouse, and that crosses that line of healthy sexual expression in a relationship. Mm-hmm. So I'm all for, myself, I speak my needs through physical touch and that kind of thing. That's a big part of my love languages, is touching and being touched. But it's really easy to cross that line of, I demand this every day. I want to be able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, when I want to do it.
Mm-hmm, of course.
So, again, continuing that conversation is, I've had conversations with my friends about how with their spouses or long-term relationships or whatever, where they're just like, I just don't think it's fair that she gets the ultimate yes or no because I want to do what I want now. And that's just not how it works.
But it's situationally, now this is not the case with everyone, but in every relationship, one person is going to have higher desires than the other one.
Yeah, libido is stronger for one party.
Exactly.
100%.
Right? So essentially the person with the lower, that came out as slower, the lower libido is going to be the person who has the final yes or no.
Absolutely.
Because that person could turn around and be like, all right, sounds good, or initiate something. Chances are the person with the higher libido is going to take that chance and run. So this isn't a she has the final yes or no, and this isn't a, well, why can't I have everything I want? That's just how it comes across.
Yeah, and it's a different
unmet
conversation piece.
Well, it comes down to unmet expectations.
Yes.
A lot of people go into marriage being like, yes, I can have sex whenever I want to. ...
That's not how it works. Now, there's something we said, we've had that conversation, is both parties at any point need to be able to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really tough for, someone with the higher libido in said relationship when, sometimes you gotta just take the L for the night and be like, no, it's okay. Your needs need to be met, not just my physical needs. I need to come down to your emotional needs as well. And that needs to be okay.
Well, I think, so we've talked about our cup analogy before.
Yes.
Right? So that's how we've broken it up, right? Is you've got your me cup and your us cup and your physical cup, and all of these cups are broken up into sections. But you also need to realize, and it's a really good thing as a reminder for both parties, is that women need the emotional connection to have or to want to have sex normally. Now, I'm not saying this is for everyone, so don't come at me and say that's not how it is. But in my experiences, and it is proven for majority, that women need the emotional connection to want that sexual connection.
Yes.
Whereas men connect through the sexual connection.
Yes, I 100%
You can't have one without the
description,
other,
yeah.
right? So it's this weird rotating circle where it all just needs to be very delicately placed on the scale.
That really is going to cover a lot of what we have to, or what I have prepped for this. But yeah, it's about meeting not just physical needs before sexual needs. Like it's that really delicate wheel that has to go around. Like for me to feel connected, speaking personally as a guy, however you want to take that, is I need that physical connection to deepen my emotional connection. So it's a really fine balancing line. That's why I said, like, sometimes for myself, I just have to take the loss for the night and be like, it's not happening tonight. And that sometimes is harder to accept than other times, but Shalane needs that time to come back to me. We need to take that night to play a board game, just talk, lay in bed and watch a show, whatever it is. Like that.
Yeah. The other cups of ours need to be filled.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is, on both parts, right? Sometimes it's like, tonight I need a me night. Or it's very common for us to be like, what are your expectations tonight? Well, I kind of want a 60-40 night. Like, let's do something together and then let's go do our own thing, because our us cup still needs to be filled and put into, but my me cup is really lacking today. Because logically, as working and parents,
Yep,
the only time we can do anything separate or together
is after 8 o'clock.
is after 8 o'clock.
Yeah, but it does go both ways. I know that sometimes you recognize I need the physical even though you don't want it or need it, and you step up. It goes both ways.
100%. Like anything, though.
Now, something I found really interesting when I was prepping for this is, we really haven't talked about this. Do you think there is anything or many things prohibited sexually in the Bible?
I've never gone digging.
I I hadn't before either, but when prepping for this episode, I did. I went digging out. There is almost nothing, so long as it's within the confines of a happy, healthy marriage, that's prohibited. There's almost nothing.
All right.
So, now I get that, from when the Bible is written till now, technology is a lot different. From then till now, like, there's a lot of different things, and science and so much research has been put into the sexual desire of our world. So I get, like, there's not going to be something like word for word prohibited in the Bible, and if you have verses you want me to check out, please send them my way. I want to do the homework on this.
I think that it's probably created a lot of more gray areas because of that.
Yes. And that's kind of the consensus that I found too, is there's a lot of things that it's almost split 50-50 on a lot of different things. But it really boils down to, will this take away from the selfless nature that God put forth in a relationship? Does this make sex about, like, power dynamics? So I know there's a whole topic of sex and control and BDSM, whatever, like, there's that whole topic there. I'm not going to get into that today. But I'm going to leave it at power dynamics. Does this make me superior or controlling you in the relationship? And does this take this away from being a loving, godly relationship?
Yeah, because the whole point of it is for two people to become one.
Yes, exactly. That is literally what I've got
sorry.
trapped here. No, that's awesome. So it's like you said, it's about two people becoming one union with God. That is the physical act of sex is about becoming one flesh with each other and with God. So going down this rabbit hole, I went searching. I was like, what can and can't you do biblically? And there's not much it says you can't do.
All right.
So for me, this is, hey, explore with your spouse. Try things out. Maybe you find things you like. Maybe you find things you really don't. But it becomes a fun game you can play together that can deepen your relationship and deepen your knowledge of your spouse. How many times have I said on here that I want to forever be a student of my spouse? I want to study Shalane constantly.
Good luck. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
But it becomes one more aspect we can study each other, right? Like,
it shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't ever be a chore.
No. So I just found that honestly a quite intriguing topic that I've never really explored before. Of, like, I know sex is from God. I know that He wants us to enjoy it. He designed it to be enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't do it.
Yep.
So it's just one more way we can deepen that. So there's a like I said, science and so many things, so many studies go into this topic because people like sex and they want to know more about it.
Oh, for sure. It's professions built upon it, right? Like,
yeah. So my next point in this is just sex should be more about relationship and intimacy than, well, I have it, versus power and control. But it really should. It's about relationship. It's about intimacy with each other.
Mm-hmm. It's not about you and me. It's about us.
Exactly. Now, the next thing I really wanted to touch on is sex should not be a weapon or a tool to use against your spouse.
No.
And I know it's really easy to be just like, no, but it needs to be talked about, because a lot of us, if we don't think about it,
We naturally do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's the way of this world. I want to one up. I want to be better than, right? Like,
You want it. I have control of this, so therefore,
what can
I
I
have the power.
yeah, what can I make you do so you can get this thing?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a reward system.
Shouldn't be a bargaining tool either.
No. So, I'm not saying that you should just have sex because the other person wants it. You both need to want it. But I'm also saying you shouldn't be, like you said, using it as like a bartering tool. Like, if you get all your chores done, I'll, like... Gold star. No, it's not.
Or you didn't do this today, so therefore...
Exactly. Like, my massage was only 39 minutes long, not 45. No. Like, these are funny examples, but at the same time...
In the same time, we naturally do it, right? It's even like with children. It's like, well, if you're not going to do that, what is it that you want that I'm going to take away because you didn't do what you were supposed to do?
You didn't eat your lunch, ergo no TV.
Right? Like, you didn't eat your dinner, you don't get dessert.
So that's why it needs to be a conscious thing in your relationship, that this isn't a weapon or bargaining tool or a gold star for the end of the week.
Yeah. It also shouldn't be something that you ever compare with other couples.
So very true. Not a point I had here, but something I was thinking about.
Oh, the look you gave me, I thought it was like literally your next point.
No, it's not something to put on your Instagram feed, right? Like
everyone is different. Every couple is different. It also shouldn't be a bragging tool.
You're absolutely right. Like again, this is an intimacy thing. It's between you and me. Like, Shalane and I, not podcast and myself. But doing this, I'm inevitably opening our relationship up to a bit more public feed, but it's an important topic, and one, regrettably, I've not talked about in the past 3 years of doing this. So we've been married for 9 years. Almost. What is something about sex or intimacy in general that you wish you could tell 17-year-old Shalane?
Well, jokingly, I want to say... No, just kidding. Because if I say something like that, you're going to actually put it in there. I really don't know.
All right. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Because
you know the answer to your question.
if I could talk to myself, 16-year-old, 17-year-old Spencer, whatever, I would tell me that I know the struggle is hard, but it's worth waiting for. Because honestly, when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, man, it was tough to say no.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, I'm unique, and Shalane's my only sexual partner. Ever. I am somehow made it to just my spouse. But as awesome as sex is, and it is, it's worth the wait.
100%.
And that's not something that is really talked about anymore. Like, I've been involved with a handful of different youth groups. I've been involved with church programs. I've been involved with like secular high school programs. It's not talked about.
Whereas, like, we grew up, like, I remember doing, like, the Brio Girls camps and, you know, all of those things where it's constantly talked about.
As a guy, like, it was giggled about in small group nights and that kind of stuff where, you know, my small group leader through a lot of my junior high and high school youth was like the associate pastor of the church. of a pretty big church. So it was like giggled about that, ooh, sex is fun, but you gotta wait. But it wasn't really struck home.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't until, I was engaged to my ex and everything that we started going through premarital counseling, and it was brought up, and at that point I'm like, this is too little too late.
Right.
Like, and that was I know you're engaged and it's so close, but you gotta wait. And it wasn't enough.
We should be equipping. And I think that, like, so as a teen, especially then as a teen girl, like, we talked about it in girls' Bible study. We talked about it in girls' youth groups. We did, like, Brio camps that were based on, you got to watch out with the, this is what some of the secular music is, and this is what you're filling your mind with, and how you're presenting yourself, and all of, like, it is constantly not, like, I don't want to say drilled into you, right? But it's there, and it's constantly talked about.
And for us, it was like, you gotta wait. Hee. If you need me to buy you condoms, let me know.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't done properly. So that's.
I feel like so from both sides of the spectrum, there was not, and there still isn't, a good middle ground of equipping our teens even now. And I think it's because there's still there's either zero stigma around sex, and it is all very blatant and worldly and in your face, or it is behind a locked, chastity belted door. Like, there's no in between.
Yeah. Let me flip the question for you then. Our girls are still very young. When they're teenagers, what would you want to tell them?
See, I don't think that it's necessarily like this is the special nugget of truth that I would want to tell them. I think it would be something that I wouldn't necessarily, like, I don't want to drill and grill into them. Like, you want it to be ingrained, but you don't want it to drill and grill it into them.
No, because if you forbid it and put it on the top shelf, they're going to find a way to play with that toy,
Right? But also just, like, so we have we have a really good communication relationship with our children right now.
Yes.
So I think just as best as we can, keeping that going forward, where it's not a stigma to talk about it, but it's also not this is how it is, period, the end.
Right. It comes all the way back around to it needs to be talked about. It's communication.
Yeah. So I think with that, it's hard not to, like, I don't know, I haven't really thought about it yet because I haven't had to, but the challenge is I don't think that we are equipping the younger generation properly.
No. And I work with a handful of people who are about 10 years younger than us. Mm-hmm. And there, like you said, there's no stigma. They talk about everything all the time, and multiple partners, and losing track of how many people, and whatever. Like, it's so unhealthy. And I always sound like I'm 90 years old when they come into this conversation. Because it's, Spencer, like, what's your body count? What's your, biggest taboo, blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, I got nothing. Like, I've been married for almost a decade, and she's my one and only. And, and then they look at me like I just spoke Chinese, because it's so unheard of. But it truly is the healthiest expression.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just you and me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's still, so okay, you could say that it's too worldly and fluid and that kind of communicating. So you kind of need that, like, happy medium. We need to find out what that happy medium is that's not pavement pounding and...
Yeah.
I truly don't know. I don't know where that sweet spot is yet, or what that sweet spot is yet.
And luckily, we don't have to talk to our girls just yet. They're still a little too little for this conversation, but it does, like I said, it just boils down to communication with our children, with each other. It's always a conversation, and that's what makes it healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Look at us go full circle.
It's almost a nice place to wrap that up.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, so I'm going to leave it there for this episode then, but I do want to open this conversation up to you guys. If you have anything you want to add to this conversation, I'm happy to do a revisit on this topic, as giggle-filled as it could be, because I'm a 9-year-old at heart who thinks everything's funny. If there's anything I missed, if there's anything you want me to revisit, anything you want me to explain further or go deeper on, or anything like that, or speaking to the parents out there, if there's any good books you could refer me to so I can have this conversation with my girls. As one, I don't know how to start this conversation with my girls because I'm a boy and haven't had to think about that. But please, I would love your input. I want this to be like we're sitting down for coffee at my table. So please open up this to another conversation.
100%.
All right, well, that's where I'm going to end this, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check me out on The Feenstra Zoo on every social media platform. You can find more great podcasts at Podbelly Network. I'm on there as well. Happy to be associated with all those shows. There's tips and tricks for getting started a podcast if you want, or just tons of great shows that you can dive into there as well. And of course, thank you to the fantastic sponsor of this season, BetterHelp. Links for everything are going to be in the show notes down below. And if you want to support us directly, best way to do that is buymeacoffee.com/The Feenstra Zoo. Again, links down below. Thank you guys so much, and God bless.